thank you for coming for our Mission Focus Sunday. It is Habitat for Humanity. If you haven't finished getting something for breakfast, there's a lot of good stuff up there. And Martha Hernandez asked me to say, please, please, please try the casserole. She wants to make sure of all the other goodies. Please get some of the casserole. So while you're eating, don't think you have to stop. While you're enjoying your breakfast, we have Ms. Becca Halbert. She is our faith relations person at Habitat for Humanity San Antonio, who is going to bring us some good words about Habitat for Humanity. So I'll let you take over.
Thank you, Martha.
Squish my hair.
I'm not going to talk with a microphone because I'm kind of loud, but if you can't hear me, I will use the microphone. Like she said, I'm Becca Halbert. I am the Assistant Vice President of Community Relations at Habitat for Humanity of San Antonio and Guadalupe Valley. So I have been with Habitat for just 3 months in San Antonio, but I actually came from the Austin Habitat affiliate. So I've been in the Habitat family for about 4 years now. I appreciate you guys coming and listening to me talk about Habitat. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll make this a very casual conversation. But I just wanted to start by asking a question. How many people think that Jimmy Carter started Habitat for Humanity? Anyone? So he didn't. A lot of people think that he did, but he is actually our most famous volunteer. And this is kind of a fun story, and not a lot of people know this unless you're in the Habitat family, but after Jimmy Carter was done with his presidency, he lived in a little town called Americus, Georgia, which is where Habitat for Humanity was actually founded in the United States. He was known with his friends to, just do some side projects while he was in his retirement of the presidency. And so his friends at his church said, hey, why don't you come to the Habitat for Humanity site and see what it's all about? So he said, okay. So he went and he fell in love with our program. So Millard Fuller, the founder of Habitat for Humanity International, wrote him a letter and said, okay, Mr. President, these are 16 things that you could do to get the word out about Habitat for Humanity. Just do one of them, just one. The president did all 16 things, and that really put us on the map, which is why I think so many people know about who we are today. Here in San Antonio, we actually have the first affiliate ever, which is pretty cool. A woman by the name of Faith Lytle actually attended a Presbyterian church. She was a Presbyterian pastor's wife. She saw the need in South San Antonio and said, hey, we need to start building houses for our neighbors. And so through her church, she raised some money. And she was actually airmailing back and forth with Millard Fuller, the founder of Habitat in Georgia, and said, hey, we need to do this in San Antonio. So that was in 1976, and here we are 46 years later. We've built about 1,276, 77 homes so far since that time. Back then, it took them 2 years to build the first house. Now, it takes us about 2 months. By the end of this year, we will have built 53 homes in San Antonio and 3 homes out in Seguin, which is Guadalupe County. Last year, we acquired the Guadalupe County, or Guadalupe Valley, they call it, that affiliate, which allows us to just expand our service area, which is great, because the need out there is insane as well. Who would think that in Seguin, Texas, it's actually more expensive to build a house than it is here? So we're trying to just offer our expertise over there and just build more because the need is so great. Just in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, we have seen a 67% increase in our applications for our families. The need is so large. We're getting around 4,200 applications per year. And when you're building less than 60 houses, that's leaving a lot of families out with nowhere to go. So we're trying to do our best and address those needs. All the families that do come to us, no matter if you get qualified or not, you're at least given a roadmap of how to become a successful homeowner. So, if you're just not prepared, you have a larger debt-to-income ratio, we kind of outline those things for you so that you can come back in a couple years and reapply if you you weren't able to go through the process. We have I don't know if you guys, if I'm repeating myself, but our families go through a rigorous process of getting through our program. So they not only have to be able to pay the mortgage, we do not give away our homes. They pay an affordable mortgage. They have to be willing to partner with us. And explain kind of what that means, and then there needs to be a need. So you can't just say, hey, I want a house. That's just not the way it works, right? So the first qualification is our families make between 30 and 80% of the area media income. What that means basically is that most of our families, the average we see, the income is about $33,000 to $36,000 per year. So those families, at least once they establish that they have the need, that they are able to pay that mortgage, they have to be willing to partner. So what does that mean? That means that they are out on site building their own home. They put in 300 hours of what we call sweat equity. And so they're building not only their house, but their neighbor's house. They have to be willing to interact with our sponsors. Our sponsors, like the Presbyterian Cluster, is a big way of how we're able to build so many homes. Because it is so expensive to build, we're trying to move towards that model of paying for that opportunity to actually be out there and build. I would love for every single volunteer group ever to come out and build, but if I can't get money for it, it's really tough for me to keep building houses, right? So that's definitely a challenge that we're trying to face now. Because of the pandemic, it's so much more expensive to build. So about 2 years ago, it cost us about $95,000 to build a house. Right now, it's $115,000. $115,000. So it has escalated dramatically. So we're trying to address that and just, trying to do as much as we can without cutting the production of houses. We work really hard to produce as many houses as we can, which is why we're the 4th top producing affiliate in the country. So we need to partner with the community. I mean, that's just the bottom line of it. We cannot do what we're doing without community partners. So it's very inspiring to see so many churches, because I come from another affiliate just 90 miles up the road. The church community, the faith community doesn't exist in Austin like it does here in regards to Habitat. So that's really inspiring for me to see. And in our Habitat portfolio here, we have about 65 churches. So we just want to continue to grow that and just continue to really put, like our mission says, our faith into action. Building on site is an actual, tangible thing that you can do in our community to build bridges with people. We're hearing a lot about things that are going on in our culture, and the one thing that everybody can agree on and you can't really argue against is building on our Habitat site. We invite everyone, no matter what your background is, no matter if you've never picked up a hammer before, or if you're a master carpenter, we want everyone to come out and build, because it's a great team building exercise. A lot of companies will do it for the team building. A lot of companies will do it for the marketing, because we do have a strong brand that people trust. And then people do it just to give back to our community. You can support us by shopping at one of our 4 home center stores. We have 3 in San Antonio and 1 in Seguin. So we do welcome donated product, and we do buy new purchase product that is sold in the stores. It's open to the public. I get that question a lot, can I shop there? Everybody can shop there. It is open for everyone. If you have donated items, we literally take almost everything, and we'll even pick it up. So, don't be shy about calling me if you have a big donation, and I'll set that up for you. What else can I talk about? Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
What are some things we can do either as citizens or as consumers to help develop more partners or greater awareness within the county?
Absolutely.
The county's obligation, the county's opportunity.
Yeah, we did just pass a major bond in May, which is awesome for affordable housing. So that's like one part of it, voting for the right to have affordable housing in our communities. Often just talking about it with your family and friends, because so many times I've found that people think that the word affordable is what affordable is to their head. So they're like, well, I can't afford that, so it's not affordable. But that's not the meaning of affordable. Affordable is that less than 80% of the area median income, that's the affordable bracket that we're looking at. And so many times people are like, well, yeah, we need affordable housing, but not in my backyard. That's what we call NIMBYism. We don't want NIMBYs. We want people to say, hey, look, we want to build these houses and we want to be neighbors with them. Our program that sets it apart against a lot of other nonprofits is that we are a hand up, we're not a handout. Our families have to partner alongside us, and they put in a lot of time and a lot of money to be there at the table. So I think it's just so important to keep talking about it, and so that people understand, you know, we don't want our families to be cost burdened. I saw a stat yesterday that just came out from the Housing Development Corps of the United States, and it said that 52% of Americans are cost burdened. Cost burdened means that you're spending more than 33% of your income on housing. That's crazy. So that's where we've got to look at of the 52%, that's like 80% of that affordable income. So that's where we've just got to keep talking about it and keep educating yourself about it. Keep voting for things that are going to promote affordable housing, which is amazing that we passed that bond. So that'll be big for us.
That burden rate is only going up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Been
Right.
talking to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
There's more people around 50.
Folks that you see who are homeless now, you wouldn't have seen because they're getting forced out of apartments.
Yep.
And these are families, and
Yep.
it's about to get real bad.
Yep.
So when and where is the next build here in San Antonio?
Yes, okay, so we will start building our next Presbyterian cluster build in the spring, probably around February, March, depending, we're still trying to figure out our schedule. But we are building 8 more houses in the fall, and we do need more volunteers if you just want to have a Saturday out on our build. So we'll start September 10th, and it will go through October 29th, every Saturday. So we do have opportunity though throughout the year, every day of the week, Tuesday through Saturday. You can come build walls in our workshop. You can just be on site. We often just have multiple houses going throughout the summer. The summer has been extremely hot, so it's been very hard for us to get volunteers out there. But we do encourage, everybody 14 and up to come and volunteer. We are a heavy construction site. So I hear often that, we need to be able to have children out there. Well, it's tough. We're a heavy construction site. We've got to build the house. So it is 14 and up, but we do have landscape days that we offer, 12-year-olds and up to come. And so youth groups can come and that sort. So, if there's a specific date that you want to come build, you just can work through me and we'll figure it out. But we're starting on 8 houses. So that's going to be a ton of volunteers that we're going to need in the fall.
Where are your houses located exactly, and how many do you project to build in the next year?
Yeah, so we're actually building in the same neighborhood that we've been building the last 2 years, called Rancho Carlotta. It's off of Watson Road in South San Antonio, very South San Antonio. It's actually, the address is Von Ormy, Texas, but it's South San Antonio. Once we're done in that neighborhood, we're gonna have built 294 homes.
In that one sector?
So we're about halfway through so far. They started building in 2020 in that neighborhood. And in the next year, on our projected schedule next year, we have 51 houses on the schedule. So hopefully that will happen.
290 plus 51 that you're projecting over the next several years?
Well, the next several years, yes. Yeah, so we'll be done in that neighborhood probably in 2024. So yeah, we're always looking for land. That's the other thing. If you happen to know anyone with land, we do buy our land unless it gets donated. So in the habitat world, a lot of the times across the country, you'll hear of habitats going into one lot. And just because the neighborhood situation is very unique. And in Austin, we had a donor donate 67 lots that was in one neighborhood. So they're still building on that. Here we bought this land, developed, worked with the city on the infrastructure, and are building 294. So it just kind of depends on what the land is.
Does the city cooperate with you on the infrastructure?
Absolutely,
Roads and
yep. Yeah, so they work with us very well. We do have different grants that we're able to get from them because of the infrastructure. They give us really good deals on that and work with us on making sure that that's affordable for us. So we have a great partnership with the city. So
They put in the roads and do you put in sidewalks in those neighborhoods?
yes, on some of this, it just depends on how it's plotted, but yes, that's the goal. So, yeah.
Are you doing duplexes as well?
We're not. So, not right now. We're just in San Antonio. We're working on single-family homes. It is a question across the country of starting to move towards that model. In Austin, we were building some townhomes, which were the first of its kind. Yeah. So, it's a constant conversation because our whole goal is to keep people in the city that they're in, right? So it's tough when you're starting to build farther and farther away from the city core. Like that's against what we're trying to do. So that has been a conversation, but not right now.
One of the things that's driving up the cost of housing is lack of skilled trade people.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how Habitat is working with local groups to help train those people so that there's somebody when supply of lumber comes back, there's somebody there to nail the nails?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we heavily rely on our volunteers, because we don't necessarily have that group of people. But we do have our day leaders that are just more skilled than your average volunteer, and then our construction crew that obviously they know what they're doing. So it's definitely been a challenge. We've seen some delays just this year because of that, and it's been really tough because we are trying to have these aggressive goals of building this many houses. So it's kind of, we're just waiting and seeing hopefully that things turn around. But I mean, just the prices have just escalated so much. So for example, before the pandemic, a 2x4 was $1.75, just a single 2x4. So after the pandemic, it got as high as $8 for one 2x4. And now we're back down, but we're at $5. So yeah, $5 is better than $8, but it's not $1.75. So, and we're seeing that across the board with everything. Now, because I don't know if you guys have been to our store, our warehouse downtown, but we have 100,000 square feet. So because of how much space we have, we're able to kind of stockpile a lot of the things that we need. So we weren't hit as badly as some other habitats across the country. But the labor is what's killing us now. I mean, it's just tough to, we'll book some subcontractors and they won't show up. And then it's like, what are you supposed to do? You kind of just are at their mercy, which is why we rely so heavily on our volunteers. It kills me when a group of our volunteers cancels, because that's our labor. Like, we have to have volunteers out there to build the house. It's just so important that we're able to do that and keep that, as a community opportunity. So.
Has Habitat been able to work with any school districts or construction management programs that are around?
Yeah, I mean,
in order to get some of that skilled labor to.
We've talked about it. We're actually part of the Alamo College's work study program now. So we're trying to see if but there's so many just restrictions and red tape with that. So that kind of makes it difficult. But, I'm trying to come up with a new initiative for our recently retired folks. Just to we need some more people to get back into our program. And more times than not, of course I would love to have, students at universities. We do have so many universities in San Antonio, but we do need that, 40 to 60-year-old that is willing to come out there and just kind of learn and teach the younger people what to do. So we're constantly trying to come up with new ways to recruit volunteers. We have about 15 to 16,000 volunteers that come through our program every year. So it's just kind of figuring out that what's going to make them come back. That's my goal. And as being a part of the community relations person, how can I make this experience the best experience for a volunteer? So if you guys have suggestions on that, please let me know, because I really do want our volunteers to not only enjoy the process of coming out and giving back by building, but also understanding the awareness piece. Okay, I'm building this house, but what does that mean? So truly understanding how you're helping out a stranger, essentially, to build their house. Our families are just so grateful and so happy at the end of it. We closed on probably the spring houses, so 6 to 8 houses just in the last 2 weeks. And those families came in, they come into our office when they close, and we take pictures and we do a video with them, and so many of them were just crying because they're just so excited that they finally have reached the end of this road. I mean, it takes about 12 to 15 months from start to finish on our program. So they're heavily invested in that. And because we had so many delays with our air conditioner units, we did have to push those closings. So it was amazing that we could finally get together with them and just kind of see that final product of the home, and then the family actually getting to move in. Yeah.
You receive federal monies for Habitat?
No, we do not. So we only get infrastructure money from the city or the county, but we don't get any federal money.
give us the overview of how Habitat is financed and then how an individual house is financed through the
Yes.
corporate closed one?
Yes, so 100% of the money that I fundraise, the money that comes in through our fundraising programs, goes directly into the home. So we're trying to raise $115,000, that's what it costs to build each home. And so all the money that we bring in from the churches, from corporations, from community organizations goes directly into the house. For a church, that's about $60,000. And then the rest of that money comes from the revenue from the stores or individual donors. So we're blessed to say that all of our overhead is covered by the store's revenue, which is incredible. So that means 100% of every dollar of any money that I bring in from our churches, from our other partners, goes directly into the house. We work with just a ton of different individual donors who just want to give, their money, that they unrestrict the money so we can put it anywhere. So oftentimes it goes on the house. And then we have, just different campaigns running that are like direct mail campaigns or just online campaigns, and that money goes to the house. So we'll have different grants that we do apply for through private companies, private foundations. All that money goes to the houses. So it's just kind of working with individuals and then companies and churches to figure out how we can raise as much money as we can.
How is the staff paid?
How's the staff what?
Paid.
Oh, from the store's revenue. Yeah, so all of our overhead is covered by the store's revenue. Our stores do that well, which is incredible.
Where's the store?
So we have 4, 3, there's one Apple Pro Van, which is where our office is. It's downtown next to the, what is that? The Gunther House over there, Pro Van in Alamo. And then we have one off of Walsman, and then we have one off of, it's on the west side.
Yeah, military at 410.
Marbach, yeah. And then
Marbach,
Seguin,
410.
yeah, and then Seguin. So, all of that, the store's revenue, do that well so we can pay our staff by that. So that's an incredible gift because that's again, a lot of nonprofits can't say that. They have to say like 90% of your money goes to our program, but I can say 100% of your money goes to our program, which is great.
Are any efforts being made to help homeowners once they acquire? Because
Yes.
considering the economy now, they originally qualified, but then with inflation going up, it's gonna potentially put them at risk, and so.
Yes, so, well, first to be said, all of our families, once we become the bank, because they do pay their mortgage to us, we do not just leave them to dry. We do communicate with them often to make sure that they're set up to be successful homeowners. So all of our families have a 0% interest, or 25-year loan. Right now, it's $750 approximately for their mortgage, which includes taxes and insurance. So even with all of the changes of everything, they should still be okay. We have less than a 2% delinquency rate, and if our family does start to look like they're gonna not start to pay, we'll work with them and make sure that they're okay. A lot of our families throughout COVID, because of there was a lot of money from the government that was being offered, they did use that money to pay ahead of time on their mortgage, which is a great thing for our families to do. So we have heard that it's tough, but we're trying to work with them as much as we can. And because we have so many families coming through the application process, it's kind of like if you're willing and able and you're ready to pay that mortgage, we're gonna get you to the system. So there's an art to it. It's not really a science. So we're trying to figure it out just as much as they are. Mm-hmm.
There is ultimately, though, if you have an owner that simply cannot pay, and can't work with you do have to take the property back at some point.
We do, yeah. It's only happened twice in our history, and
In San Antonio's history?
yep, in 46 years. So it's not, an often thing that happens, but it's absolutely last resort. We're completely heartbroken when that happens, and we try to do it literally as much as we can before we get to that point. So it's definitely not something that we, want from the families at all. But a lot of our families are they're so happy to be there, they don't want to move out. Because that's the other question I get often is, okay, so you're hearing about a lot of these people that come in, these investors, and they flip the house and sell it. Well, with a Habitat house, you can't do that. So it is protected to where of their 20-year loan, in the first 10 years, they do have to sell it back to us. They'll get their principal back, but they can't make a profit from that, so that's good for us. And then we will find another family to sell that house back to, so that we keep that affordable inventory in our community. The last 10 years of the house, we have first right of refusal. Now, after 20 years, yeah, they can sell it on the open market, but what we're seeing, because a lot of those families, because we're in 2022, so these families from 2002 have now paid off their houses, they're not moving. It's their forever house, which we love. I mean, we want that, that's the whole point of it. So we're happy that we're not seeing that, but that is how our process works to give them that opportunity. What else can I talk about? A lot of our families, I'm producing a new video for us this fall that we'll be sending out, so you guys will see it, but we often hear too from other nonprofits and other foundations about education. Obviously, education is so important for our young people, and what we're seeing is the stability from our houses offers that education piece for the kids that are in the house. We actually have 2 families where one was the valedictorian of her high school, and she went on to Stanford, where she's studying right now, which is just absolutely incredible. And she and her mom attribute 100% of that success because of their Habitat house, because she was able to not move every year, and her mom wasn't stressed about where they were going to live and what school she was going to go to, because she had that stability. We have another family that she is at UT Law right now, and I'm actually going to interview her next week. And again, her family attributes that to living in that house. So that education is so important, and we know that, and we want to show that stability really does matter in the families that move into our houses. Mm-hmm.
Is your makeup mostly Hispanic or what?
Yeah, it's about, I think it's 83% Hispanic in San Antonio, and then I think it's 15% African American, and less than 1 to 2 Asian and white. So it's definitely a Hispanic market. So but we're happy to serve anybody. I also handle all of our social media, and often people are like, oh, well, you don't serve single people. And we do serve single people. Anybody can apply for our program. We of course love to serve the families, just because the kids need that stability, like I said. But anyone can apply for our program as long as you're in that 30 to 80% area median income. You can have the chance to get qualified.
And that was my other question, how many are single moms?
Yeah, I think it's like 30%, 40%. Yeah, it's somewhere around there. In Austin, it was 80%, so it's very, very different. It's just funny to see that difference in market, but yeah, our families are really great people. I mean, that's what gets me out of bed every morning. I get to interact with a lot of our families. We're actually celebrating some of our houses being done on Friday. We have a home dedication ceremony. So if you're wondering what it's all about, we are going to have that dedication ceremony on Friday at 10 a.m. in our neighborhood. So that'll be a fun celebration. We're closing on 17 houses, so 17 more families will move in before the start of the school year. So that's our goal for them. So again, just trying to provide that stability for them. Let's see, what else can I talk about?
Becca?
Yeah.
Did you share about the Habit tours?
Yes. So we do have so we have different tours that you can come on at our store, which is our office and our store in the same place. We have a model home of what we build in our store. So you can actually see our house if you come to the store or the office. So our Habit tours are offered once a month, and then our bus tours are offered once a month. And our Habit tour is just at our store. We'll do a short presentation about the history of Habitat. We'll walk you through the store into the model home so you can kind of see it. We serve coffee and breakfast at that as well. And then we also have our bus tour. So again, we'll do a short presentation. We'll get on the bus, we'll ride out to our neighborhood, and we'll drive around the neighborhood so you can see where we're building, and then we'll take you back to the store. So everybody's welcome to do that. It's, like I said, once a month, open to the public, and then we offer, again, breakfast and coffee. So you guys can all come to that if you want.
Can you tell us a little bit about the San Antonio Presbyterian Cluster and how it finances the house and what its history has been, and how the of that house is paid for. So
Absolutely. Now, Martha can probably speak to it a little bit better than I can, but I know that next year we're starting on our 28th house, just built by the Presbyterians, which is one of the longest faith partnerships in the country. I did learn that. So that's pretty cool. So that's an amazing thing to say. We do have several different churches that are trying to raise money, and that'll all go towards that house. So the way that the Presbyterian cluster does it is they have their own company that it runs through, or nonprofit that it runs through,
What's that?
the Presbyterian cluster, so that we can put the funds, you give me the funds from the Presbyterian cluster instead of it going through each church, right?
Since I don't want to have my back to anybody. So, we have the account. Covenant is the big umbrella for our funds. So all of our churches that make up the cluster, put the money into that fund, and then when it's time to put down our payment, we make the payment to Habitat for Humanity. So it is, I think we're about 25 churches right now, that each one does its own fundraising, or it's part of their budget that they give. And then together, I hope this year, we're gonna get to do Holy Smoke again. That's our combined fundraiser that we do. So always look forward to that in October.
Which is here, right?
Yes, sir. We've been hosting it here. This, just another blessing of this, all the thinking that went into making this place. It's so convenient and welcoming. Everyone has just said that word welcoming about it, because it is. And it's getting a chance to see each other. Yes, some of the volunteers have gotten to a point where they can't come out to the site anymore. They still support financially, of course with prayer. And this is such a wonderful event to see each other again and eat. And there's always some time of entertainment, information about it. We usually get to meet our current homeowner, whoever we just built for. We get to meet that family in person. And that's just a really nice evening. And it's just really incredible to me that Covenant's been a partner in the Presbyterian Church. I have been involved with Covenant, with the cluster about 20 years now, and I can keep track of that because my twins were 14 when I brought them with me on a build site. And they got into it reluctantly at first, but then they had a great time. But when they were 17, that's when they were working on our house. So many of you know I am also a Habitat home owner, but continue to be a volunteer. And my boys still do come out to the build site. And in years, my grandson's gonna be out there too. I know he is. He doesn't know it yet, but he will be out. He doesn't know it yet, but he will be. And we have one of the sponsors from First Church, I think is where he's from. He has a group that he brings out from one of the colleges that come out, and he really wants us, when he goes out there, let them work. You don't want volunteers to come out there and stand around. You want to let them get their hands in it and really feel that at the end of the day, they can see they did something. You can see a difference in every day. Like she said, we do a build in 7 or 12 weeks, so you see a difference every time you come out. You're like, whoa, look what they added on. And they may not have known right away what to do, but the little instruction, and it's beautiful, just beautiful to see those rhythms. And hopefully they'll tell a friend, or if they hear about it, they're gonna share it, and that's what we need. Yes, we do need volunteers. Like I said, I'm the average age of some of the volunteers, getting a little harder on some things, but this is all the height I've got. So we do need a few taller volunteers out there too. I've got a little something for you guys. It's this lovely shirt, and I'm looking at the time, and if there's more that you're gonna share, that's fine. But right now, who can answer this question? If you are supporting the Presbyterian cluster, the build, who do you make your payment payable to?
The church.
No.
Presbyterian church.
Okay, Gordon, anyone else know?
You tell me every
The
week.
check is made payable to Presbyterian Cluster Habitat. It's tough, but for Bob's willingness to give an answer, Presbyterian Cluster Habitat will make the contribution go to the building. For another. I don't miss an opportunity. Presbyterian Cluster Habitat, these funds will go to that account that the cluster sponsor uses for that build. Any gifts made to Habitat for Humanity San Antonio, do not get applied to the bill directly. It does not reduce our $60,000 responsibility, but it is gonna be put to use. It's still going under Habitat.
And it can, I just have to know about it, which happens, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, but
We have routed a few checks. It takes a little more
Takes a little
power
more
to,
time.
it takes a little more work to track it. And any time that we can make it smoother,
yeah.
and if we can make the contribution giving smoother, Presbyterian Cluster Habitat goes into this one account, and then the check goes when it's time to do it. And every amount can help. We've had, one of the groups is a Bible study group, and I don't know how often Covenant is the ministry that they help. Covenant, the Presbyterian Cluster is their ministry, but I'll get a check from them. And just knowing that we're on their mind, but we're also in their giving. That's pretty awesome. I think it's wonderful. And another group built my house. The North Ecumenical Cluster built my house, but a lot of the cluster volunteers were there that day. And that was awesome. That was awesome. My sweat equity, I did over the 300 hours that were needed. I did it by, yes, volunteering. Thank you, Lord. I'm bilingual, so I did it, some of it making bilingual presentations. I did it also translating some of the documents that they needed. So, it is something. I am a single mother. 3 boys is when I moved into my house. They have a pride in having made that house. They keep telling me now what they want to do with the house. But yes, they all graduated high school. One of them earned his master's degree, served in the military. My middle son has his own home, is married, my grandson. The other one is doing his jobs on his own, not a homeowner, but on his own. So it is a huge help as a single parent trying to raise 3 boys in these days and age to take some of that burden of paying the bill. Was it going to be robbing Peter to pay Paul, to keep the lights on, to keep food, if medical came up? Having that set payment that was not going to fluctuate much was a huge, huge relief. I'm so really grateful as a homeowner that it exists, because it is hard. I've worked, but not the greatest paying job to be able to make it all end. And with prices going up, that Habitat is trying to still put families in homes. And it's wonderful.
Just curious, Martha, when you bought your house, the price was different from what it is today, right?
As far as like, what my house paid, yes.
There.
Mhm, yes. Yes, a couple of hundred less than what a homeowner buys now.
Didn't you say 150,000 was the cost for both?
115.
15.
For Habitat to make
For us
that
to build
house.
it.
The sponsors, we've been able to do 57 as the responsibility of the cluster responsibility. Up until this one, they just, because of the cost increases, our responsibility has moved up to 60,000. And,
So the cluster has to raise 60,000 to start the house.
not to start, we put down about, we see where we are in November, and we try to put a good chunk of it, at least 10. If we have more to put down, we put more down. But we can start building, and we won't start another house until we finish. Now, sometimes we have paid the down payment, been working still, and before we're done, we finished paying it. I don't think we have ever finished a build and still had an outstanding on our sponsor commitment. But we like it a lot when we are fully paid before we even start, and we have been able to do that a few times.
But the difference between the 60,000 that the cluster provides and the 115,000 is supplied by other donors, like, Valero or.
Yeah, or individuals.
The
It's more
corporate donors
individuals.
or individual
Mhm.
donors. So there's a multiplier effect, if you will.
Or the mortgages. And that's what's the beauty of us being a bank as well, because we're carrying those mortgages, so that money is always coming in. Yeah.
When do you think Holy Smoke's gonna be this year?
October 16th is what we're targeting. And when I say targeting, because COVID affected our being able to gather. That's why we did it virtual last year. But I gotta tell you, the biggest thing that responded was that Kathy is the co-financial chair of our committee. She's a member at Los Angeles. She sent a letter out to everyone who had given, explaining the situation of the cost, and we still wanted to be a partner. And we got responses that helped us meet that need even before Holy Smoke happened. We got some after, but, and that's a whole lot of the word of mouth. The word of mouth is just huge, wonderful, and just a blessing when we're on churches' budgets like we are with Covenant. That helps us so much.
Well, you might explain, for those of you, Habitat for Humanity has been in Covenant's regular annual budget for many, many years. Covenant gives $2,500 a year to the Presbyterian Cluster Habitat. Then we have individual members who contribute, like you just saw, who write their checks to that. Some send their checks through the church, some send them directly to the Presbyterian Cluster, but we hope that most of our members would make their contribution to the Presbyterian Cluster, whether it comes through the church office or directly to them, so that the Presbyterian Cluster will get credit for it. But it's been on our regular budget for, I don't know, 30 years or so. So when you pay your pledge to the regular operating, a portion of that money is going to Habitat and has for many, many years. And other churches do that too, and then individual Presbyterians also contribute, which ends up making this pool of funds that the San Antonio Presbyterian Cluster administers, and Covenant is a sponsor of that bank account. We use our tax exempt status for that bank account and has for many years.
Yep.
So it's kind of the way it's the function.
It's all partnering.
Yep, so that's all I really have. If you guys have any more questions, I'll be around, so feel free to
Thank you.
come talk to me. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.